Good morning to everybody except for the TCU Horned Frauds. Welcome, everybody, to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. I'm Emerson Latzia. We are all over the map this morning. So we got best bets and top DFS plays around the NHL, the NBA. Jason Sobel is here to talk some PGA Tour. But first things first, Wild Card Weekend, gentlemen, is up next around the NFL. Good morning to DraftKings contributors, Jeff Ulrich and Pierce Dietrich. I hope you gentlemen like sequels because that is what we are getting with these 6 regular season matches coming up this weekend. Let's price check ahead of this 6-game classic contest on DraftKings this weekend. Pierce, what are you doing at quarterback? Is this a situation where you got to pay out for the elite guys like Burrow and Allen, or do you want to roll with your dude Geno?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to roll Geno. I don't think you necessarily have to pay up, although there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm going to go to the Fraud Bowl and look at the Vikings and the Giants, 2 teams that we don't believe in, but it doesn't matter whether we believe in them or whether they're full teams. You know, they don't have very good defenses on either side, so that's a green light for the passing attacks. I like Daniel Jones. I know he's not the most competent or capable quarterback in the league, but he's facing Minnesota, who has one of the worst pass defenses. They allow a lot of points to receiving running backs. They leave a lot of points to receivers. So that opportunity is going to be there. We know that Jones is going to do a little bit of everything to try to get his team ahead and on the board. It may not be pretty. It might be slightly ugly, but he'll run. He can give you a rushing touchdown. You know, it is a little risky, but I mean, we've seen this all season long. Minnesota makes the opposing quarterbacks, whoever they are, look really good.
All right, Jeff Ulrich, who's your quarterback here? How much money are you going to spend?
I mean, it's really hard to get off these two, as Pierce said, you know, fraudulent quarterbacks, I guess. Daniel Jones at 5,600. Not only that, but I mean, he brings the upside with the rushing ability. Last time he played, the Vikings average 8 yards per pass attempt. Look, I think that Pierce has covered this. The paying down is not going to be like a contrarian option here. So I think if I was going to get a little bit different, I would probably look at Justin Herbert at 6,600. Huh. You know, the 3 games in a row where, you know, not really great fantasy output. Alston Eckler been doing a lot of work, obviously doing the heavy lifting to get people to fantasy championships. But the Jacksonville Jaguars have a very good defensive line. We saw it in action against the Tennessee Titans. They disrupted. They stopped the run. They held up Derrick Henry enough that they were able to win that game. I think that the Chargers will probably end up having to pass the ball a lot more than people think. And look, I mean, Herbert went on a run of 300-plus yard games. Like, if you force the Chargers to pass, Herbert can drop back there and really let it sling. So I think Justin Herbert is a nice contrarian option for this weekend. He's been really working well with Keenan Allen. I do like this matchup, sorry, Emerson, for Keenan Allen to potentially have a good day. Yeah. I think that stack is one that could go under-owned compared to, the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants stacks.
Jeff, that's the only wild card matchup between 2 4,000-yard passers in Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. So it should be a high-scoring game. Let's go to running back here, guys. And speaking of running back, Pierce, we just mentioned the Giants and the Vikings. Giants took the Vikings to the limit in Week 16, right? And Saquon Barkley had 133 total yards and a touchdown in that game. Is that where you want to look for running back? Give me a guy over 5K.
That's exactly where I'm going to go.
Woo!
Running back is a strong position. You can go in a lot of different directions. You don't have to be cute. You don't have to be contrarian because the ownership is going to be spread throughout. But I like this Giants game. I do worry about putting too many of my eggs in one basket, but this is the highest over-under on the slate. We know Minnesota gets into these shootouts. We know that Barkley's going to get plenty of volume on the ground and through the air, had 8 catches the last time that they played. And that's just the way this Giants offense works. We know Daniel Jones, as I mentioned before, not the greatest quarterback in the world. Brian Dable knows that. And so they have schemed this offense around what he can do and the weapons that they have, and they found themselves in the playoffs. They can't work the ball on the outside. They can't make deep passes, but they can check down over and over and over to Barkley. He'll get the goal line work. He'll get plenty of red zone work. I like the matchup as well. Bottom third in basically every matchup for Minnesota. So give me Barkley, but you can't go wrong really with any of these running backs.
Yeah, Pierce, you mentioned volume. Giants 5-1 when Barkley gets 20 carries or more. Jeff, Pierce mentioned you can't go wrong with really any of these running backs, so give me a guy over $5,000 you like.
It's true. I mean, this feels like we have like a 14-game slate with all these names, and some of these matchups are terrific too. The nice thing about it, I don't think you have to get cute at this position. Travis Etienne at 6,300, man. I mean, against the Chargers, who have been bottom 3 in terms of yards per rush attempt against all season long. Joey Bosa potentially dealing with an injury. I know he's more of a pass rusher, but still not helpful there for the Chargers. Doug Peterson is going to scheme up Travis Etienne in this game. I have no question about it. And you look at what he's done too. People, I think, may sit back and say, oh, well, I mean, obviously tough matchup last week against Tennessee, but can we really trust this guy? Well, yeah. I mean, this isn't about his floor. Is his floor not as good as, say, Saquon's or even Austin Eckler's? It's not. But we're talking about pure upside here. And Etienne has that big play capability. We saw it in the week prior against the weak rush defense in Houston. Peterson getting him more involved in the pass game as the season goes along too. I think you're going to see him be the focal point of the Jags offense. And I think that it's going to be effective. I think there's a good chance the Jags get out in front here, riding on the back of him. So 6,300, I think he's just the best overall blend of upside and value on the slate.
Okay, let's go a little further down the board here at wide receiver. Jeff, give me a guy under 6K who makes the most sense to you.
I mean, Deebo Samuel at under 6K, I think that's pretty good. I mean, look, this game for the 49ers, like, yes, we do have to guess a little bit, and the 49ers love to spread out their touches, but I think that actually targeting Deebo Samuel here for GPPs in an event where, most people are going to be scared and say, he's only had a few touches. He's only played one game. This is a great spot for Deebo Samuel. He's gonna be involved again. Shanahan's gonna be dialing up plays. They're gonna be in the red zone all game against Seattle. I think that you take a shot here. In a normal situation, what would Deebo Samuel's salary be if he was healthy, was coming off a big game? It'd probably be closer to 7K here. So I think that there's enough just potential with the implied team total of San Francisco that, even if the touches are spread and Deebo only ends up with 10 touches, that could be enough for him to find the end zone, grab like 5 catches and just produce like a 20-point game. So 5,700 under 6K. Yeah, I think this is a great spot to take a shot with Deebo Samuel this week.
Pierce is Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, Gabe Davis is there, Zay Jones.
Those are all fine options, but let's go way down the board.
Whoa.
Let's go with the super freak, Richie James. People that watch the show know that we've been recommending Richie James since back before Thanksgiving, and it's working every single week. And it really is not a surprise. Giants slot receivers play well because, as I mentioned before, Daniel Jones can't complete passes down the field. He can't complete passes on the outside, so he goes to all these checkdowns. And that's what Wan'Dale Robinson was having a really good year before he got hurt. James slides into that spot. Last week, 7 catches for 76 yards and a touchdown. The week before that, against Minnesota, 8 catches for 90 yards. Minnesota struggles against slot receivers. They've allowed the second most receptions to slot receivers, the second most yards to slot receivers, and the 4th most touchdowns. Rich James, value play of the week.
17 points, at least 17 points in 3 of his last 4 games. And at $3,900, that's a pretty damn good return on investment. At tight end, come on, this is where you two shine. Hook me up, Pierce.
I'm not going to get too cute, but I like Dawson Knox. Touchdowns in his last 4 games. He's facing a Miami team that's allowed nearly the most points to opposing tight ends, has a struggling pass defense. Buffalo, we know the momentum's on their side. We know that they can come out hot. They're looking to, pretty much roll in these playoffs. They've got all of the narratives behind them. They're a big favorite in this game. Miami just barely got in here. I think Dawson Knox will get you a touchdown. I don't know if he's going to get a bunch of volume, although in competitive games he does get a lot of receptions and receiving yards. But we usually want that touchdown from a tight end, and Knox is trending in the right direction.
I mean, they throw the hell out of the football, the Bills do, against Miami. How about this? Josh Allen averaging 350 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, no picks against the Dolphins in 2 regular season meetings this year. Jeff, where are you going in the tight end department?
Yeah, we didn't really talk about the Dallas Cowboys yet. And, I was going to bring up CeeDee Lamb, obviously a little bit too expensive, but I really do think it's another spot for Dalton Schultz to potentially just get off. A lot of people are going to be paying up for George Kittle and Mark Andrews, but Dalton Schultz coming in, obviously 19 targets in the last 2 games. he had an up and down year, but people forget he's basically the number 2 option in this offense last year. He's kind of starting to slide into that role again. Really good matchup here against Tampa Bay. I think that the receivers of the Cowboys against Tampa are just going to be the story of this game. I very much look for the Cowboys to bounce back here, potentially, make this even like a very big spread. So Tampa, 9th most fantasy points allowed to the tight end position, 9 touchdowns allowed. Schultz has really been doing his best work in the red zone of late as well, a couple multi-touchdown games. So I think Dalton Schultz is where you pay down. And again, I think this is a slate where you can look for that mid-tier value. Talked about Dawson Knox, like a very similar player on the Buffalo Bills. And paying down there, it's only going to let you get more access to those running backs, which I think is going to be vital on the slate. So,
Ulrich, as we wrap up our price check segment here for Wild Card Weekend around the NFL, DST, where are you going?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, last time I looked, like Kirk Cousins on this slate. Why not take a shot with the Giants team?
Let's go.
3,000. Look, it's still DST. We're still playing high variance here. Is there some crazy matchups on the board? Is there some big favorites? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you got the room, you can pay up for the 49ers, but this is DST we're talking about. Like, guys go for punt returns. Fumble recoveries can happen in 30 games. Like, it happens. I think that targeting Kirk Cousins, a statuesque, fraudulent pocket quarterback, is absolutely fine. The Giants could be ahead in this game easily. They're the better coach team. They've got Saquon Barkley, and if they do get ahead, they're going to run the ball, and they're just going to rush, Kirk Cousins with Kayvon Thibodeau. I think that 3K, this is going to be a very low in play. Everyone's going to be on the other side of this game, stacking the Giants. You can get good leverage. You can get a very low in play with the Giants DST.
All right, who's your DST this weekend, Pierce?
I'm going with the Cowboys. Jeff's right. We need offensive mistakes to score a lot of DST points, but offensive mistakes are often the result of defensive pressure. No one gets more pressure than the Dallas Cowboys. Second best defense DVOA, second best in adjusted sack rate. If you look at Brady this year, he's only faced a 12% pressure rate, which is insane. He's not having any pressure whatsoever, but the reason for that is he's at a 2.1 second pocket time. That is the quickest in the league. He doesn't want to get hit anymore. He's throwing passes early before the rush gets to him. That doesn't allow his receivers to get open, and we've seen it. And his numbers have been okay this year, but he struggled to get the ball to Mike Evans, to get the ball downfield because he's just releasing it so quickly because he doesn't want to get hit. If he does that on the game against the Cowboys, he's not going to be able to move the chains. So if he tries to hold on to the ball, well, he's going to run into that Dallas pressure. So I just don't see how this is going to work out for them. They don't have a rush attack anymore. If they can't get the ball downfield to Mike Evans, the underneath stuff, the Godwin just isn't enough to move the chains. It isn't enough to put points on the board, puts them in a negative game script, and then from there, Dallas just tears teams apart.
All right, guys, let's do some best bets. Let's do some best bets before you take off. And we know San Francisco, sorry about this, Pierce. San Francisco is a double-digit favorite over your Seahawks as the NFC West rivals are set to open the postseason on Saturday afternoon. You can see on your screen that, San Fran swept the season series, outscoring Seattle 48-20. 49ers also ended the season as one of the better bets to make throughout the year, finishing with an 11-6 ATS record. Jeff, what is the bet in this game on Saturday afternoon? Keep in mind, it's the lowest total currently on the board as well.
Yeah, look, I think that the play in this game is to kind of just eat the chalk. I don't have anything fancy to say except just take the 49ers. I think that at under 10.5, you just take the 49ers to cover the spread. The Seahawks are a great story. If Geno Smith keeps this game close, I really won't be that shocked. But I also think that, as much as Geno Smith can do, the 49ers can score so fast and can just wreak havoc with so many different players that, if this game is close down the stretch, they could just pull away in so many different ways. And I think that's probably what's eventually going to happen. So, 10, I know this line was at 8 at one point, and maybe you're seeing like a little bit of leveling out here with some people taking the Seahawks at 10.5. But we've seen these two teams play. The 49ers dominated this offense early in the year. Again, I just keep coming back. The Seahawks lost their best linebacker 2 weeks ago in Jordan Brooks. I just don't know how they're going to slow down anything that Shanahan does in terms of Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey coming at you. you just take the 49ers here and you move on.
Pierce, is it that simple? Because San Francisco enters this matchup on a 5-0 ATS winning streak at home and have covered their last 8 games against the division.
Well, if it were that simple, if it was this easy, then Seattle wouldn't even be here. Right? No one gave Seattle a chance all season long.
Except you.
Yeah, except me. Well, it's funny, though, because now it's Jeff's San Francisco team he's been talking about for the last 3 years.
Okay, I talked about San Francisco at the start of the year. So it is my San Francisco team.
Yeah, I know.
I said take the over on the wins. I said play them. Yes, I did. It is my San Francisco team. Thank you. It's just I had a different quarterback in mind than Trey Lance. But that's
and it's going to be my Seattle team that shocks the world. I mean, they've already shocked the world. They've gotten this far. The last time these two teams faced, it was a pretty competitive game. And I'm just not going to bet against Pete Carroll. I know people hate Pete Carroll because of one stupid play that he made in one Super Bowl, and they've completely written him off. But you look at his coaching record. You look at his resume. He is a Hall of Fame Hall of Fame coach. And once again, he's proved, like, no one gave this team a chance. People wrote this team off every chance they could this season. Oh, well, they're not going to make the playoffs now. Well, here they are. They're in the playoffs. Oh, they're a 10-point dog. They can't do it. All they have to do is prevent some of these big plays from San Francisco, hang in the game, and you got a chance. If there's anyone that can motivate a team, it's going to be Pete Carroll to get them to believe in themselves and maybe, just maybe, squeak this out. I don't know if they're going to win the game, but I think they can definitely cover the 10.
Yeah, San Francisco's 10.2 points margin of victory, second highest in the NFL. Also, Brock Purdy, 5-0 as a starter. Dude just doesn't turn the football over. Let's go to the nightcap on Saturday here, guys. It's America's team. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are 1-point underdogs at home against the Chargers, a team that they absolutely mollywhopped back in week 3, 38-10. Jeff Ulrich, what is your betting approach here to this game, young man?
Been going back and forth on this one a little bit, but I mean, ultimately, Pierce wants to make the coaching argument for last game. I'll make the coaching argument for this game. I will take Doug Peterson in a matchup versus Brandon Staley at home any day of the week here. You've got Staley playing his starters, creating some kind of negative atmosphere in the last week of the year. And then you've got Doug Peterson, who rallied his team in what I thought was a very big roadblock in the Tennessee Titans, a veteran team that typically has made huge upsets in the past. That was their roadblock. That was the Jacksonville Jaguars' big thing to get over. I think they're just playing with house money here. You mentioned them already, beating up on the Chargers team. I just think this matchup favors the Jaguars. I think you've got a coach in Doug Peterson who's going to know to take advantage of a defense there that's really, really susceptible to underneath passes, to the rush game as well. Give me Doug Peterson at home, plus money on the money line. Take the Jags to win this outright.
Hell yeah, brother. There he is. Jeff Ulrich totally redeems himself. Pierce Dietrich. Jags went 4-3 ATS at home. Each of those 4 ATS wins coming as a home dog.
Yeah, we're going to be Jag homers here.
Yeah!
Completely biased for the next 3 or 4 days. Can't help it. You go back to the May 9th, 2022 episode of The Sweat. I said take the Jags plus 450 to make the playoffs. Take the Jags over on their 6 wins. That was an easy win. No reason to bail now. And Jeff nails this. It's not just the coach. We've seen this with the Chargers. On paper, the Chargers should go in, and Justin Herbert should be able to just shred this defense. But if there's ever a team that on paper they just never live up to, I mean, on paper the Chargers are 2-time defending champions. Meanwhile, you look at the Jaguars and you look at them on paper like, well, this team doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. How are they winning games? It's the complete opposite. Peterson gets the team to play better than the names on the page, whereas the Chargers have all the stars, have all of the fancy players, and it gets into the game and they just drop these games that you never think that they would lose. And I think the Jaguars at home are going to win this one easily.
You two are phenomenal, and that is the perfect way to end this segment. We will be back with some NBA fast break right after Chirag Hira updates us on the latest from the land of DraftKings Rainmakers, focusing on UFC.
What's up, Web3 fam? Chirag Hira here to bring you information about the UFC Genesis drop. This is the premium drop for Rainmakers UFC. I just want to tell you a little bit about the different packs that are available. To start off, we have the $349 pack. This is the most premium pack that's available. Why is it premium? This is an awesome pack where you can get a Rainmakers card within the pack. The odds are broken down right here on the marketplace. You can look exactly what your odds are per card, but guaranteed to get a rare. Guaranteed to get a rare, but also have the option to get a Rainmakers card in there and then breaking down all the way through. But also, the most important point about the Genesis drop, which is different from the Fight Night packs and the event packs, is that you get a 5x multiplier bonus on your franchise score. Why is that important? It's important because we're offering over $4 million in collection-based rewards. Moving on to the next pack, the $34.99 pack. This is a standard pack. This is your standard pack in which you get 5 cards. This is the pack where you can get all your core and your elite ones. What's really cool about it is that it mixes in there core, rare, and elite, but also you get that 5x bonus, but you're guaranteed 3 top-ranked fighters. So you're not getting guys or girls that you're going to not be able to use in your lineup. It's really important to get top-ranked fighters because they're the ones that potentially do and have all the knockouts. Last but not least, Rainmakers UFC Genesis Drop info page on DK Nation. This is important because what we did is we broke down every single thing from contest requirements all the way down to which fighters can be included and which fights they'll be included on, and then the exact tokenomics of every single status category for each of the fighters, their additions, how many you can expect in every single drop. From there, you want more information, how to get the packs, what the breakdown is, every single detail of what's included in the packs is also available here, and then the pack overviews. And then last but not least, the frequently asked questions. So if you have any other questions, Octagon passes, anything related, remember, the UFC Genesis Drop is happening now, so go into the DraftKings Marketplace to get yours.
7-game NBA slate tonight. You know what we're going to do right now? We're going to rip through each and every one, and we're going to have these two potato chips, Julian Edlow on the left, Mr. Nick Whalen of RotoWire on the right. You guys are going to hook us up with the DFS play or sportsbook play from each contest. So, Whalen, I start with you. Pistons at the Sixers. What do you got for us?
Well, first and foremost, we need to confirm the status of Joel Embiid, before we decide how to attack this game. Latest update is that he went through shoot around. He remains questionable for this game. We'll see. I think there's reason to exercise caution here against the Detroit Pistons. If Embiid is ultimately held out, I love Montrezl Harrell. Maybe milk one more good DFS game out of him tonight. If Embiid does play, then give me Philly -11 at home. I think this is a great spot. Detroit is in a real rough position right now. They just beat this Pistons team by 12 at Detroit on Sunday. That was without Embiid. This will be the first game in a while where Philly is kind of at full strength with all of its guys back. So everything kind of hinges on Embiid for me. But Montrezl Harrell, if Embiid's out, Philly -11 if Embiid plays.
All right, Jules, where are you going?
Well, Emerson, unlike your selection of sport coats, which apparently consists of one, we have many players to choose from in this game. I think that Embiid's status obviously is what it hinges on, as Nick said. If Embiid does not play, I want to look at Isaiah Stewart, who's going to have, it's just kind of the other end of the center matchup that Nick was talking about. He's going to have a much better matchup. He's coming off a 40 DraftKings point game against Philly there's no Jalen Duren, so he's just going to get more minutes up there. Killian Hayes, if Embiid does play, it's not as good of a matchup, but he's scored over 40 DraftKings points in 3 of his last 5. You could try just riding the hot hand there, and his minutes seem pretty safe even in double-digit losses.
Jules, this sports coat and sweater that I wore on Sunday was still on my dining room table this morning, so I put
Looks
it
like
on.
you're wearing it again.
I certainly am, Jules. That's a good observation by you. Thunder at Heat, what's your observation here? DFS play or sportsbook play, Jules?
My observation is that every single slate, the Heat make this impossible with their injury report. So, you're betting Heat games, you're choosing who you're playing in DFS right before tip. For me, Miami's just been awful at home. So, take this with a grain of salt. I don't have a play that I'm very confident in this game. But if it comes down to it and you got guys like Bam, Hero, and Lowry all out, I'll take points with OKC on the road here because Miami's been awful at home.
All right, Nick, what do you got, dude?
I'm thinking the same thing. I would consider jumping on OKC right now because I think if we get negative news on Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero specifically, that number could be on the
They
move.
were just
They were
ruled
all
out.
just ruled out.
Just
You should
ruled
go
out,
download
Nick.
the DK Live app.
It's already out.
Bam and Hero have been ruled
Yeah,
out.
they're
There
out.
we go.
There you
Wow.
go.
That's-
Bam and Hero already out. Hopefully you
Timing.
jumped on that line at 4. Kyle Lowry also out for Miami tonight, as we know that the Heat are want to do. If you want to look at the DraftKings DFS app, Victor Oladipo, I think he's the play tonight. 5,300. We're turning back the clock 6 years ago. I think this could be a night where Oladipo easily clears 30 minutes.
Hell yeah, brother. All right, Hornets at Raptors, Nick.
Jalen McDaniels. We're going DFS here. 5,300. He's stepped up with Kelly Oubre out of the lineup. Gordon Hayward also doing his usual thing, missing every other game. He is doubtful tonight. I think this is easily a 30-plus minute night for Jalen McDaniels. Not a super exciting player. Not someone you're going to say is going to go for like 25 and 10, but he just always has a way to get to 15, 16 points, 7, 8 rebounds, a couple steals, a couple blocks. He's someone I've been rostering all year in season long, and it's finally starting to pay off. So I think at 5,300, you're still getting a really good deal on McDaniels.
Jules.
Raptors were spiraling out of control a little bit, got back on track with that win over Portland at home. I expect them to stay on track and come out strong early here, carry some of that momentum for a win. So I'm going to play the Raptors on the first half line. You're getting -4 there. They're 13-9 against the first half spread at home, and Charlotte has been pretty poor on the road, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, I get it. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Cavs at
Okay.
Jazz, Jules. You want to go DFS or sportsbook here?
The Donovan Mitchell game, whatever you want. Play him in DFS, play him on the sportsbook side. Cleveland hasn't been as good on the road, and we've seen spots where the team that lost the superstar player gives a concentrated effort to kind of stay in that game. So I am going to stay away from the spread here, but I'm confident that Donovan Mitchell is going to go back to Utah and put on a show. So I'll play him over on the point prop. Or if you want on DraftKings Sportsbook, we are running a boost. Donovan Mitchell, 25 or more points, so over 24.5 points with 3 or more made threes. It plays right into it. If he gets 25, he's going to make 3 threes. That's boosted from -160 to even money right there.
All right, Nick, what do you want?
I got the same thing. I feel like we're under a professional obligation to play Donovan Mitchell over on the points prop in this situation. I don't expect it to be like a hostile environment by any means. I think Utah is slowly moving into a different phase as a franchise, so I think he'll be welcomed back. But I also think at the same time, if you're Donovan Mitchell, you want to show out in front of the home fans for a team you used to play for. So it's a higher number than I would like. But obviously, this is a guy who scored 71 a week ago. So I have no problem going over on that points prop. If you want to play him at DFS, he's at 9,600 tonight.
Suns at Warriors, taking us to the land of DFS or sportsbook, Nick?
I like a lot of things from this game, so I'll try to go quick. I like the under on 229.5. I would also look into the under on the Phoenix team total of 108.5. We know that the big storyline here is we expect Steph Curry to return for the Warriors, but Phoenix, man, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Cameron Payne, Cam Johnson, all those guys have been ruled out. Shamit, Ayton, Torrey Craig, they could all miss this game as well. I mean, this might just be one where Phoenix just kind of ends up punting it due to injuries. So Warriors 11.5, I would look into that. And then for DFS purposes, Dwayne Washington and Damian Lee are the 2 guys that I would plug in for Phoenix.
All right, Jules.
Yeah, the Suns don't have any players, and this could be a spot where the Warriors get back to full strength. So same as Nick, rather than just lay the double digits for the game, I think that this one is going to, if the Suns do wind up without those guys we think that they will be without, this is going to get out of hand early. So the Warriors, who are 14-7 against the first half spread at home, getting out to really good starts, I'll just lay the 6.5, I think it is, for the first half.
Okay, what do you want to do for Magic at Portland, Jules?
Oh man, this is the one that I had trouble coming up with anything for, honestly. The Magic have been pretty good as a dog, but so many moving pieces with them recently. By default here, I'll just say I'll take 7.5 points with Orlando because they're starting to get guys back, but this is a game that I'm having trouble doing anything with, honestly.
All right, what about you, Nick?
Yeah, I didn't love this line either. I've kind of been a pro-Portland guy for the most part, but this line is just a little bit too high. Nurkic is on the injury report yet again. So I'm going to go back to DraftKings and just go Wendell Carter at 6,400. You're still getting a fairly significant discount on Carter relative to where he was when he was healthy early in the season. Came back from his injury and played, lower minutes for a little bit, but he's back over 30 minutes per game. Mo Bamba's basically been phased out of that rotation. So I think you're getting good value on Wendell Carter at 6,400.
All right, bring us home with Mavs at the Clippers, Nick.
As of right now, I'm leaning Mavs. Obviously, we got to double check on Luka Doncic's status. He's questionable. He missed their last game. But no Paul George, no Luke Kennard for the Clippers. We know that for sure. Who knows if something will happen with Kawhi in the next few hours. So assuming Luka Doncic plays, I think I'm just going to hop on the Mavericks with the points. You're only getting one, but that's kind of my default right now.
Jules?
Yeah, the Clippers are a mess right now. The number, Dallas was a much larger dog when this opened, so the trending number tells you probably that Doncic is going to play. But at this point, even if he plays, this is going to be around a pick'em game. So I'll take Nick's advice on the side, but just say I don't think we're going to lose much given how much the number has moved in waiting for confirmation on Doncic. So Luka in, Mavs money line.
All right, from a 7-game slate around the association, we got 10 in the NHL tonight, and we got Paul and Anna here joining us after the break to help you build a money-making lineup. The date is January 10th. We have 10 games around the NHL tonight. We have 2 analysts here to help you decide who to stuff inside your rosters on DraftKings. NHL.com's Anna Dua, RotoWire's Paul Bruno. Let's go. NHL Morning Skate. I say your favorite play at center tonight, and you say who, Anna?
I mean, AJ's going to scream because I'm saying Bo Horvat of the Vancouver Canucks playing against his Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm just anti-Penguins right now, but Bo Horvat has 7 goals, 13 points in his past 7 games, and I just don't like this matchup in Pittsburgh's favor. I think he's going to keep this streak going, so I like Bo Horvat a lot.
All right, Paul, where are you going?
And even AJ's anti-Penguin this time of year. They're going through a bad stretch, and I agree with that call. But I might take Nate McKinnon tonight, $9,200. Against a Florida club that gives up a lot of goals. He's got 4 points in his last 3 games, playing 25 minutes a game, looking dynamic as he usually does. I like Steve Stamkos against Columbus. That looks like a big-time mismatch. I might even double up and say Braden Point and Steven Stamkos, 7,500 and 7,100 respectively. Both centers are really rolling, better than a point per game in their last 8 games.
Paul, how high on the board do you want to go here at winger?
Nikita Kucherov's about as high as I want to go. $8,400 the price tag. I looked at this guy's game log, guys, and he's only been held pointless in 6 of the games that he's played this season. That's a remarkable pace. And so against Columbus again, I think that's a stack opportunity. We'll touch on that a bit later, I think. Kyle Connor and Nick Ehlers, 2 dominant wingers for the Winnipeg Jets. Ehlers back from injury, playing first-line minutes and looking really good already. But Kyle Connor is on fire with 5 goals and 6 helpers in his last 6 games. And then I'll give the Penguins a little bit of love. Jake Gensel, they have a bit of a mismatch opportunity against Vancouver. Jake Gensel, $7,300. He's got a pair of goals and a pair of helpers in his last 2 games as well.
All righty. Anna, who's your wing tonight?
I'm looking at a different injury return, Max Pacioretty of the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, he's had a couple of good games since making his team debut with Carolina. In his first game, he had 6 shots on goal against Nashville, and then he had 2 goals against the Columbus Blue Jackets this past Saturday. So he was nearly a point-per-game player when he was with Vegas. He had 37 points in 39 games last season. It doesn't take a long time for Max Pacioretty to make a huge impact.
Okay, now we're going to go back to the blue line. Your bro on the blue line this evening, Anna?
It's got to be Vince Dunn. I know he played last night, but I mean, what a game he had last night. He has 6 shots on goal in that game against Montreal yesterday. He's on a 3-game scoring streak right now, has 7 points across his past 3 games. I think he's going to keep this momentum going against Buffalo tonight, and he's at 4,300.
All right, Paul.
You can go all the way to the top of the board. Look at Erik Karlsson. He's had a 14-game point streak snapped in his last time out. He gets a chance to start a new one up against Arizona, costing $7,500. If you want to save a little money, though, there's a trio of first pairing defensemen that I'm looking at. Devin Taves, $5,200. I know he's been blanked in his last 3 starts, but he's playing against a Florida club that's been giving a lot of goals up lately, and Colorado's ramping up their offense, so I like that matchup. Rasmus Andersson for a Calgary club that's picking it up offensively as well. They get a St. Louis club that's tapping out defensively of late as well, costing $5,000 there. And then finally, Miro Heiskanen might be the best of the lot. $5,600 the price tag against New York Islanders. He's at a point per game pace in the last 6 starts, averaging 25 minutes a night.
Paul, save us some cash, but give us some points, and tell me who your value play is.
All right, there's a trio of choices that I'm looking at here, guys that are playing top 6 minutes for their respective teams. Dylan Dubé moves up to the top line for Calgary with Lindholm and Toffoli. He's playing that St. Louis club, $3,900 the price tag. Lawson Krause is a guy who's been filling the net for Arizona all season long. He gets a chance to pad those stats against a San Jose club that's suspect defensively, costing $3,800. And then finally, Brendan Saad is on fire, and he's got a price tag of $3,400 for St. Louis, 6 goals, 2 assists in his last 6 games played.
Anna, who's your top value play tonight?
Columbus and Tampa is a lopsided matchup, but there's a little value I see on Columbus's end of the ice with Kirill Marchenko. He's at 3,200. He had a hat trick against the Carolina Hurricanes on Saturday, and he's actually leading all rookies in the NHL right now in goals per game with 0.5 in 16 games that he's played, 8 in 16 games this season. And other than him, I'm also taking a look at Tyler Bertuzzi. He's at 3,000 right now, making his return to the Detroit Red Wings lineup for the first time since November 30th. And Bertuzzi was almost a point per game player last season as well. He had 62 points, 30 goals in 68 games. So I wouldn't be surprised if he came out ready to go in his first game back in quite a bit.
All right, I know it's early, so I ask you, do you have any early leans in the crease, Anna?
I mean, now I got to go with the obvious. I think Andrei Vasilevsky has a pretty good matchup set up for him tonight against the Columbus Blue Jackets, so I really just can't argue against that. I think Tampa is the heavy favorite in this game, and Vasilevsky is going to have himself an easy win.
All right, Paul.
Just in case Vasilevsky doesn't start, you got to look at Brian Elliott too. $8,300 the price tag there. I could see them starting their number 2 guy against the lowly Jackets. Other couple of goalies that I'm looking at: Georgiev, $8,100 for Colorado against Florida, and then Ottinger, who's been one of the top 5 goalies in the league, $7,800 against the New York Islanders. Might be the best pick of all.
All right, Paul, you teased it. Game for stacks. Go ahead, take us back there.
All over Tampa. You can pick any combination of their forwards that go with the 2 centers and plug them in. You can look at Killorn. You can look at further down the roster, but I definitely think you go with the 2 pivots from Tampa in this one. I also can consider a stack involving some combination of Rantanen, Lehtinen, and McKinnon for Colorado against Florida, and then certainly the Winnipeg Jets. I talked about 2 of their wingers. Why not parlay them with their Blake Wheeler or some Scheifele in that matchup against the Red Wings, who are giving up a lot of goals lately too.
All right, Anna, bring us home.
I mean, this is not going to be shocking whatsoever to anyone, but the Carolina Hurricanes are going to try to get back into that win column because the New Jersey Devils, I mean, they're going through a little bit of a slump. They had a tough December. They've not had the best start to January so far. And Carolina, I mean, even when they lose, they're putting up like 67 shots on goal in a game, managing to lose somehow. So it doesn't even matter what's going to happen. You're going to find value no matter who you choose on Carolina. You could go anywhere in the lineup, and I'm sure you'll get something out of every single player on that team.
All right, you two were absolutely phenomenal. We're going to take a break, and then Jason Sobel is going to make his 2023 Sweat debut. After this break, we're going to dive into some DFS plays and best bets for the Sony Open. The first full field event in the year 2023 arrives this week on the PGA Tour. Jason Sobel of the Action Network making his 2023 debut here on the Sweat. Damn good to have you here. We're going to dive into some top plays for the Sony Open here at Waialae Country Club, which I'm comparing this course a little bit to what we saw last week, Jason. What, 500-yard difference here? Like, it still takes a low score to win here. So, like, is there a certain type of golfer that we should be targeting? Like, what should we know about this course?
Yeah, so we can compare the two, but other than both being in Hawaii on different islands, there really isn't much of a comparison.
Yeah.
That said, one of my favorite trends is this week. If you look back over the last 6 years, players who played at Kapalua the week before only account for less than 16% of the players who have been in the Sony Open field. That said, they've won 5 of the last 6 Sony Open titles. They've accounted for 39% of the top 10s at the Sony, and they've made the cut 73% of the time. So there's something to be said for, even on a much different type of golf course, just shaking off the cobwebs, getting some competitive juices flowing. Another trend, Emerson, if you look back over the last 3 years, 70 players have finished inside the top 20 and ties at the Sony Open. 69 of those 70 gain strokes tee to green. If you're not golfing your ball, if you got a little rust on the driver or the irons, it ain't going to go well this week for you.
Yeah, and I believe you've seen 20 under or better for the winner in 6 of the last 8 tournaments here. Guys just go out there, they're relaxed, they're tossing darts, rolling good meatballs. Which high-priced golfer on DK? So talking, let's go $8,000 or more, would you consider rostering this week?
Well, okay, so we always talk about DFS in terms of who do you like? Who are you putting your money on? I'm going to look at it in terms of GPP, the big contest, versus cash games. I'm going to look right now at a cash game, and Maverick McNeely is a guy that I've identified as a player with a much higher floor than most other players of his caliber, of his status. McNeely is a guy that on a regular basis finishes inside the top 20. In fact, finished inside the top 20 in 4 of his last 5 starts last year. He's finished inside the top 20 in 18 of his 50 starts going back to the beginning of 2021. 9,100 on DraftKings this week. I really like him for a guy with that. Again, if you're playing a cash game, a 50-50, whatever it might be, and you just need someone to get you some points, Maverick McNeely is my guy this week.
I mean, he's off to a tremendous start this season, too. Jason, look at some of his numbers, ranking 4th in strokes gained putting and in 5th in scoring average. Absolutely, man. And he's played the weekend in 6 consecutive events. Let's go. What about some value? Can you go a little further down the board?
Yeah, so Ryan Palmer won this event back in, I believe it was 2010. Been around for a long time. Talked to Ryan the other day. This is his 20th full year on the PGA Tour. He sounded just as excited right now as he was 20 years ago. When I talked to him, he was out playing golf with his son. Not that many professional golfers in their downtime go out and play golf. I know we'd all like to believe this idealistic thing that, hey, these guys are doing what they love every single day. For a lot of them, it's a job. They grind, they practice. It's not that much fun for these guys. Brian Palmer, still north of 40 years old, having fun playing the game. This is a place where he's played well in the past. Like I said, he's won before, 12th place last year, 7,100 in DFS this week. I think it's a nice value for a guy who shows up every week. He's going to show up with a smile on his face as well.
All right. Favorite top 10 bet. Who are you betting to finish top 10 here at the Sony Open? I don't know. Is Russell Henley, does he come back and avenge that heartbreaking defeat last year?
Henley's my usual guy here. Look, he shoulda, coulda, woulda won last year, wound up choking it down the stretch. I do think that he's got a little renewed confidence, having won it Mayakoba a couple of months ago. I like Henley here. Henley is a guy before last week that I had identified as the player that I wanted to play here. Instead, I'm going to go a little bit further down the board. I'm going to have an aggressive top 10 play at plus 700. Nick Hardy is a guy that I'm very bullish on, maybe overly bullish, I'll admit it. But I just think this kid's game, tee to green, is really good. When the putter starts going, watch out. He is going to be, I think, potentially a top 50 player in the world by the time the year is up. Right now, he's something like 184th. So that is a major jump coming for Nick Hardy, but he's got that type of talent. I think it starts this week.
Okay, take me now to top 5. Your favorite top 5 bet for the Sony Open.
You know, Emerson, this is an interesting one because I don't think Waialae necessarily fits Cam Davis's game. This is a guy that I like to identify when driver means more than most of the other clubs in the bag. He's a really good driver of the golf ball. That said, I am so bullish this year on Cam Davis that I'm taking him in a top 5 for a top 5, even in a place that I don't think necessarily fits his game perfectly. That's how much I like him this year. I talked about Nick Hardy making a major leap the world ranking. I think Cam Davis is a guy who's outside the top 65, 70 right now. I think he can be top 25 by the end of the year. I'm basically playing him until there's a reason not to play him. I don't really have that reason yet, so I'm playing him top 5. I might even have a few tickets on him outright this week as well.
Okay. Speaking of outright, your favorite outright bet, and I'm seeing a lot of folks kind of high on this Corey Connors guy. Maybe you as well?
That's it. I don't know. Either I'm copying them or they're copying me. Whatever the case is, we're all over Corey Connors, and it makes sense. Look, first trend I talked about, which is playing the week before. Not only played Kapalua last week, played well. The final round ball striking numbers, which I always look at from the previous week, were really good for Corey Connors. Secondly, I talked about tee to green. We always look at Corey Connors as one of the better iron players in the world. If you go back and look last season, he was actually better with a driver in his hands than with the iron. So that tells me he has become a more complete player. It's not just one skill set, but tee to green, he is really good. That's what fits this golf course. And then you throw in the fact that Corey Connors is a guy that, quite frankly, should have more than one PGA Tour win.
Yeah.
I don't think people quite realize how talented he is. I believe plus 2,200 right now. It's a decent number. It's not a great number, but again, I'm just trying to get a win in the books this early in the season.
3 consecutive top 12 showings at this event, including solo third 2019. How bummed are you to not be in Hawaii right now?
I've done it like 6 or 7 times, Emerson.
Oh.
It's a great trip. I'm not going to lie. It's really fun.
Humble brag. Okay. All
Wow.
right. All right, Jay. Good catching up with you, man. Great to have you back on the show. We will talk to you. We'll talk to you next week. That is a show, everybody. Jesse should be back tomorrow morning. We'll be hanging out 11 o'clock Eastern time. There's a Tuesday edition of the Slate tonight at 5 o'clock Eastern time. So make sure you come back to the DraftKings YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch pages. Billy, you were holding that camera really high up there. That's a show. Have a good one.